Hey everyone, welcome to Small Talk Sundays, where I just do some small talk on Sundays and then upload the video out of every inopportune time on Monday. So, I've been working on this one video, working on being quote-unquote, because I've mostly been struggling internally whether if this is going to be a good idea or not, but I've decided that I'm going to be making this next series to be along the lines of the more unedited approach, where it's going to be a pretty, like, almost casual feeling playthrough, where it's the type where you could just sit back and almost have that play in the background, because everything's just going to be, like, kind of slower paced and whatnot, or you could just watch it as well, if the type of slower paced videos is your type of thing. But what I'm planning on is having it to be a full playthrough of me going through the story. I'm still not sure how much editing interference I want to put into it, or if I want to put any editing interference at all. So there's going to be, it's probably going to be a little bit of a mix of the two for now until I really get an idea as to which direction I want to take it. But that also depends on if you folks would rather it be like to be a more fluid, like long stream, unedited, untouched viewing experience, or if you'd be all right with the more chopped up editing bits where I just splice things together, cut out some of the fat. I'm still not sure on it, and I'm sitting here asking for criticisms before the thing is even out. But yeah, that's essentially what I have planned for this next one. Right now, the main thing kind of holding me back is I am doing like my usual edits type of stuff at the very beginning, because I'm going to do a recap as to how I feel about the Archons of the Sands of the Seventh Dawn as of now. Not now, but as of the time where I am starting the Shadowbringers experience, because I'm basically doing the same thing with the video I did to a Realm Reborn, where I had to like sit back and remember how I felt at that time, and I think I did a pretty decent job. But yeah, that's what I have planned. You're gonna get a recap, and then it's gonna go straight into the whole like playthrough type thing. And this does offer a new editing challenge for me, in which instead of trying to do a bunch of like video splicings and overall like visual flow and whatnot with different clips to go along with what I'm talking about, this time the editing challenge that I'm coming up with, the longer playthroughs, is how can I sufficiently balance out the audio, because it's not just a matter of just raising the volume of one of the commentary and the game, but it's also adjusting the different frequencies. Like what I have going right now is adjusting the frequency of my commentary to where I boost the natural frequencies of my voice to be able to ring a little bit louder. I don't boost it a lot, but I do boost it a little bit. But I also detract some of that same frequency in the actual game audio. That way I'm not totally sinking down all of the volume, but just the small frequencies to where I can still talk normally while the game is almost pretty much like on the same level of volume as I am. So that's kind of a trick I'm trying to like work with, and seeing how compressors work, because sometimes the boosting here it doesn't work well, and then there are other segments where in the gameplay things get a little loud, and sometimes it peaks like over 0.0 dB, and I'm trying to avoid that because for the sake of speaker health. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting new little predicament I'm going through, and it's actually kind of fun because audio stuff is kind of a neat thing for me. And speaking of audio, I was hearing something about there's this bill that's trying to be passed where content creators online, streamers or YouTubers or whatnot, will be like anyone who gets like a copyright strike or some type of copyright fraud or some sorts, they're going to be open for the possibility of jail time. I'm not sure exactly how to say that, but I think I heard something about it trying to be rushed to be passed before the end of this year. So I don't know if it's already been solved or not, or if it's still up for debate. But that's something I heard waking up one day last week, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit because, well, I don't use copyrighted stuff in my videos because the stuff that I listen to tend not to be strictly enforced under copyright, and I don't think they are under like legal copyright things. Like video game music, those tend to be a lot easier to use, and a good chunk of them, to my knowledge, are kind of copyright free, but I don't know if that's still exactly the safe route to go, because things get retroactively copyrighted and people end up using stuff that was already like previously uncopyrighted, and people have already had permissions, and some rules change over time, and then they end up going back and getting people who use that stuff in trouble. I've heard of a few cases in where that's happened, so that's kind of a weird thing. And the whole idea with copyright, like, it bugs me that copyright has as much power as it has, because I understand why it exists, because people even nowadays, with copyright still being as strict as it is, people all over the world are like stealing artistic pieces, like ripping music and whatnot. It's prevalent everywhere. And I understand why this copyright stuff exists because of that, to protect people, the artists, from getting like ripped off for their product. But all it takes in this day and age is for one person to rip it, and then it's everywhere. Like as soon as one person copies something or just like saves it somewhere, they are capable of spreading it everywhere faster than any pandemic. So as soon as something is ripped once, it's ripped for good. So it's a really fickle thing to really deal with copyright, because if that law is enforced to put anyone who's infringed on copyright to be thrown into jail or prison, I don't know how to feel about that, because I don't know if playing a piece of music on a video, accidental or not, I don't know if that warrants the same punishment as people who have stabbed people to death, like mugged old ladies, broken people's limbs, and committed heinous acts. I don't know if that deserves the same level of treatment. And honestly, what that kind of shows me is that the higher corporations, the people who have already made it super big and successful, are trying to solidify even more to where it makes it even harder for other people to rise up. Because another thing about copyright, right now, since it's automated, there are things where it's trying to pick up these frequencies and sounds that it's a audio fingerprint, essentially. And there's this software or bot or algorithm that's being used that tries to detect that same audio fingerprint and whatnot, or blueprint. Well, the thing is, there's something I learned really early on in my music education, is that no one's going to really write something completely new at this point. Because just about every type of music has already been experimented with and tried in the past. Sure, some of them aren't even recorded yet because, you know, those are like millennium years old. At this point, like, everyone is trying to be a musician, it feels. Like, everyone, it feels. I stopped pursuing the whole idea of being like a professional musician because of how incredibly difficult it is to make it as just a pure musician by yourself, not being attached to anything. So with that said, you're bound to hear like probably the same exact series of notes and chords from like at least 5 different people all over the world. Everyone is trying music. If you like really go out there, and people who have legitimately not heard any of this like copyrighted music ever could possibly end up falling under victim of that whole algorithm bot, because what they're making or writing could fall under that audio fingerprint. Shoot, I've even heard tales of some people's voices, like videos of just their voices getting copyrighted, and that's kind of an interesting thing to me. So this, since it's automated and audio waves and sound waves are such a different type of thing, and it's really hard to really protect music in particular, because for like the past century and maybe even longer, there's like a certain chord progression that's used all over the place. It's like the 1-4-2-5, I believe, and there's other chord progressions that the Japanese like to use as well, where it's like the it was like the, what was it? No, it was like the 4-5-3-6. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Every like sort of nationality and country has its favorite chord progression that it tends to use a lot, and the fact that a lot of people use that chord progression makes it hard to protect copyright, because then instead of having to like look for chords or overall harmonic construction, they have to look at the melodies and how that's sound, like the main melody, the main tune you remember from a song. And even then, you only have up to like 12 notes to use. That's including the chromatics, but if you're going to stay in the scale, which a lot of people do, you only have 7 notes to really choose from. And a lot of music nowadays is resorting to just playing one note over and over when they're singing the lyrics, like Lady Gaga's Poker Face. It's just the same thing. And and that's another thing that I'm actually now afraid of this video. I said the name of a song, and that the name of that song is set in the song. And I've heard cases where people get copyright struck because they literally say the lyrics of a song completely out of context. Ultimately, I think my main problem with the whole thing is that this automated method, or whatever bot or algorithm that they're using to automatically detect copyrights, it gets worse and worse as time goes on, because people keep making music and they keep wanting to copyright their own pieces of music, and as more and more pieces of music get included, it gets harder and harder to make anything because of the slip-ups that the bot may do, because it's going to be looking for more and more different sound fingerprints, sound prints or whatever. Ultimately, I feel like it's going to reach a point where it's just going to start going absolutely crazy. I don't know. I feel like this bot is just getting so much piled onto it that's like a bubble that's about to burst. But that's like with this copyright thing in general. As for this bill thing, I don't think content creators deserve the level of jail time or prison time on the same level as actual criminals, like people who have actively pointed a gun at someone and pulled the trigger, or mugged someone, or stolen things, or done a bunch of heinous stuff. No, I don't think content creators on YouTube should get that same treatment for the acts of playing music that was not yours on your video. I don't think that deserves the same level of punishment. That's essentially what I'm trying to say here. But yeah, I don't want to like tumble too far down that rabbit hole. But yeah, I got, that was something that I woke up to. I got problems with it. I don't like copyright in general, but I know why it exists. And the bot that's handling the whole copyright thing, or the algorithm that is, it scares me because it's becoming this giant that's like building up. It's like filling up a corked bottle. And the more you fill it up, the more pressure that's in there, it's going to pop soon. And I got a feeling something might happen with that. That's me putting my tinfoil hat, but whatever. Yeah. Kind of freaks me out to think about. Alright, that was a weird talk for today. Alright, so with that said, I'm going to end it here. Thank you all very much for watching and or listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful life. And don't click links. Alright, take care, folks.